What's up, guys, and welcome to Press A repeatedly. Justin Thomasello here with Chris Gold.
What?
We are back. It is Labor Day, and we are working on this Labor Day to create a podcast for you.
Yeah, it's for anyone out there who doesn't know, it's actually illegal for us to work on Labor Day. So this is actually now an underground illegal podcast recording. So I hope you all appreciate the work and the risk that both Justin and I are taking putting this episode out there, because if we get caught, then we are both going to be publicly executed. And honestly, I love this podcast enough to risk it, if we're being perfectly honest. So, I hope everyone out there really enjoys this episode.
We break the law for you. Press it repeatedly.
That is the PAR promise.
Yeah. Probably shouldn't put that in our tagline. Like cops driving by, like, what the hell?
Why would we release this episode? Oh, man. We're bad criminals. So, Justin, what is the subject of this illicit episode of ours?
Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? Great question. Here is the answer.
Thinking up the topic right now.
We're going to talk about physical games versus digital games. There's been it's a pretty common debate in the world of video games. Like, what do you like more? What's easier for you? Do you prefer to have games on your shelf? Would you rather them have them in a digital library? Just a lot of it's personal preference. And we kind of wanted to explore basically each of our personal preferences, the pros and cons of each, and as time goes on, how much longer do we think physical copies of games will be around, or will they never die off and will always be around? So there's a lot of different things for us to talk about later.
Right, and I think this debate is going to be especially interesting, at least from my point of view, because I don't really fall down solidly on one side versus the other. I can definitely see the pros and cons of both, and frankly, I don't really have too much of a preference one way or the other, so it'll be interesting, I think, to kind of explore this topic a little bit further down the line and see, just see what the benefits are of each type.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because when I was thinking of the topic, I was like, okay, because I feel the same way as you, but I was like, maybe this discussion will kind of help me try to narrow down on one and fight for it. But yeah, I still don't know. But I mean, I guess we're getting a little ahead of ourselves here, and we'll discuss more on that a little bit later on.
Right. Yeah, for right now, though, got a lot of fun times to get to. Been playing a lot of games over the past week, so let's just get right into it. Justin, what are you playing?
All right, this week saw the release of one of my most anticipated games, a game I've been following for a very long time, and that is Donut County.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you've been hyped about this game for forever.
Yeah, ever since I first saw it shown off, it was at the PlayStation Expo last December, I believe. And they showed off that little trailer of the two raccoons playing the game on the computer or on a system, and just saying weird, funny things. And I just loved the art style, that polygon, cartoony mix kind of thing going on. I love the character design, and I was just hooked. I mean, I didn't even really know what the game was about from that trailer, but just visually, I was immediately attached to the game. And, over the course of the year, we were finding out a little more how the game was going to work. Essentially, if you're unfamiliar, you play as this hole in the ground. And it's a puzzle game, and you move the hole around, and you're trying to collect everything on a stage in the hole. And you have to start off, you're starting off as a small hole, so you can only get small things in it. Like, for example, you would come over and get a very small rock, or a wad of paper or something. But every time you collect something, your hole gets a little bit bigger. And, it's basically getting the proper order down, getting your hole big enough to eventually collect everything in the stage and then move on to a second part of the stage. But what makes this game so unique and special, I think, is just the style of it, the art style. The writing is very funny. The character designs are great, and it's not just putting things down a hole. There's also puzzle elements to it, which I really enjoyed. Of like, for example, if you put the hole on one level under a puddle, the water fills the hole. So now you're moving a hole around with water in it. So you need to figure out a way to drain that water so you can continue to get things down the hole. There's a lot of like you get a catapult later in a game that can actually fire something that you've previously swallowed down the hole up into the air, and you have to somehow like hit switches sometimes with that or activate things, and there's a certain order of doing it all. So the puzzles actually became a little bit more intuitive later on, which was really great. And it was just so fun. I loved the style of this game so much. It was very weird and silly and goofy, which is things that I love in games in general. And the music was fantastic. Really kind of offbeat, almost a little bit dancey, kind of weird stuff going on in the background that was kind of relaxing and chill too at some points. And it just really, like, the overall experience of the game was just so enjoyable for me, and it was so great to see something that I had been so hyped on for so long, to get it, play it, and have it meet my expectations, and maybe even go over them a little bit. That's just a great feeling.
Now, did you ever play Katamari Damacy when that came out? Because Donut County reminds me a lot conceptually of a Katamari game.
I've actually never played a Katamari game, but I am very familiar with them. And yes, there is a lot of similarity. The only difference is instead of collecting things into a big ball like you do in Katamari, you're kind of like just swallowing them in this hole. But like visually and, just the style of the game, the goofiness of it, the weirdness of it, yeah, it's all very Katamari.
Did you beat the game?
So I did beat Donut County. It's a very brief game. I think it's only about maybe 2 to 3 hours. I guess it depends on how fast you blow through it.
Right.
And if somebody had a problem with that, if they kind of flagged the game for being too short, I would understand it. But for me, it kind of reminded me back a little while ago when I was playing Octodad, which is also a short game. But it didn't overstay its welcome, For me, it was kind of the perfect length. Like, Octodad ended right as I was maybe about to start getting a little bit tired of just kind of flailing my limbs around and knocking shit over and just, having these really wonky controls. So, yeah, if it kept going, I think it would have just started to become a little bit of a chore, and it would kind of lose its charm. And I think it's exactly the same thing with Donut County. I think the length was perfect for what it was. If it kept going on, maybe it might have lost some of its personality. However, I would like to see maybe later on, a few months down the line, like a DLC pack come out of like another hour or so's worth of levels. I think that would be a really good way to go about it, and just get me back into the game for a bit, back into that world, and start playing a little more. Yeah, but I just think for now, I played the game over the course of 2 nights. I know a few other people I've been talking to have played it. They just got it start to finish, sat down and beat it. But it's a nice break from other things that you're playing. It's relaxing. It's goofy. It's funny. There's a Trashopedia. It's called. It's like whenever you, the idea is you're playing as this raccoon, raccoons love trash, right? So
right.
He's collecting all of the world's trash for himself, kind of. The story's kind of goofy about how everything works, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody because it's laid out very well in the presentation of the game. But everything you collect with the hole goes into this Trashopedia, and at the end of the level, you can kind of cycle through everything you collected, and every item that you collect has like the name of the item, a picture of the item, and underneath it is maybe like one or two sentences about the item written as the raccoon. So like if it's a snake, right? He'll put a common ground noodle or something, like some kind of witty, snarky remark about each thing that you grab, and they were kind of fun to read too. So it's pretty cool.
Nice. Yes. So that updates, I guess, with everything that you collect in the hole.
Yeah, exactly. Whenever you swallow something that you haven't swallowed before with the hole, it goes into your Trashopedia. And I don't know if it's possible to not collect something, because the point of each level is to collect everything in the level. But I don't know. Maybe there's a way for you to not get something, because one of the trophies of the game is collect everything in the hole, like collect all the items, and I did get that. But yeah, I don't know if it's possible to not get that one, because that's how the game works. But yeah, I don't know. But the layout of the game is so great. Again, I don't want to ruin the story part of it because it's kind of fun. But like every level is basically a flashback to what happened before, and in between each level is a cutscene to where you are now, and like the situation that everybody is in because of these holes, what these holes have created. And it's really funny. It's just a really cool world that they created, and just really good writing, and it's a lot of fun.
Nice. What did you play it on?
I played it on PS4.
Now it's available on mobile too, I think.
It might be. I'm not exactly sure. I know it's available on Steam and Mac. I don't think it's available on any other systems yet. I would not be surprised if this comes out on Switch a few months from now. On mobile, I don't know. I do know that a couple months before this game came out, a clone game was made and released on mobile that was ripping off the idea of Donut County, and hopefully this doesn't take away from any of the sales of this game, because this is not something that could be replicated by somebody trying to cash grab with just recreating the general idea. There's so much like charm and personality in this game that I don't think that can be manufactured.
Right. So I looked it up. It looks like it's available on iOS, so it's on Apple devices. It is not on Android. So right now, if you've got an iPhone, you got an iPad or something like that, you could play Donut County there. But someone like me, I have an Android phone. I cannot get it for mobile.
Yeah, I have Android too. I wonder how that would work. I guess you just kind of drag the hole around with your finger.
I would imagine so. That's how I would think it would control. But like you said, it probably would come to Switch at some point. I imagine there's an Android release in the works also. So we'll see. This looks like a really, really fun game. I'm really glad that it really met your expectations and was a really, really good time.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun. It's a good break from anything else you're playing. And this has a lot of charm, which I really appreciate in games. So if you're interested at all, check it out.
All right. So what else you been playing?
Let's see. Last night, my brother Nick and we started playing this game called 9 Parchments on the Switch. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not. No. Yeah, that is new.
Yeah, so it's made by Frozen Byte, which is the team that makes the Trine games, if you've ever played any of them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Trine's kind of like this whimsical fantasy-style game where there's these 3 different characters that you control, and you switch through them on the fly and just kind of navigate these really like beautifully designed levels. It's more of like I guess adventure platformer, you would call that. So this game, 9 Parchments, it reminded me of the game Magica, if you've ever played that.
Nah, I'm not familiar with that one.
Magica is this game where you play as it's a multiplayer game, top down. You play as a bunch of the wizards that have
Oh, wait a
different
minute.
spell casting abilities.
Wait a minute. I think I am familiar with that, actually, now that you mention it. In fact, I think that's in my
Yeah.
Steam library.
I think you played with us when we played that. It was a while
Uh,
ago, so I don't
it
blame
was
you
a
for forgetting.
it was a long time ago. Remember, I think we were doing that game of the month thing from way back when, and I
Yeah,
think that one was one of Butch's you may have given us. I don't
it's
remember
possible.
exactly.
It could be. I don't really remember either, but I do remember playing it. And Nine Parchments reminds me of that. You're playing as these wizards. It's a top-down action adventure game, I guess. Um, and you have certain abilities. Like my character had a an ice beam I could shoot, fireballs I could throw, and this like dark bomb. It's like an area of effect attack where I could throw it and create this like dark area that could hurt any enemies that walk in it. And Nick had a healing pool area of effect that we could stand in and heal us. He had a dark beam and like a laser ball he could throw. And it's kind of cool because the game works on like an elemental based system, kind of like Pokemon. Like if you're fighting, a fire enemy, you want to use your ice ability on it because the fire will have no effect. He's immune to it. So the enemy elements kind of change on the fly. You have to switch your abilities on the fly. You can combine abilities. Like if Nick was shooting his dark beam and I was shooting my ice beam, and they kind of met in the middle, they would create a combination beam of the two that's like stronger and I guess does both elemental effects. And so we could like toast some enemies with that. So that was pretty cool.
All right, that's cool.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. We were dying a lot in the beginning because they kind of just throw you in there. There's not really a tutorial or anything. It was a very brief one. And then like enemies just start coming and they're doing like a lot of damage to you. And we were just dying all the time, trying to figure out how to like revive each other and stuff. But the more you go, the more you fight, the more experience you get. You start leveling up. You start being able to give yourself some skill points that can do things like increase the regeneration rate of your spells, add a little more power to them, and just basically make you progress and get stronger. And things start to get, as you're starting to understand the combat system, things start to get a little bit easier. It's almost like a twin stick shooter where the left stick moves your character and then the right stick aims where you would fire your spell, and then you have to hold the R button to actually fire the spell. So the enemies are very mobile, so you have to be constantly moving and attacking. If you just kind of stay in one place and attack like I was doing in the beginning, you're going to get destroyed. Like these enemies come charging at you and deal a lot of damage. And you have a blink ability where if you hit the X button, I believe, you kind of like teleport from one area and get to another area. So like it's like a really fast way to get out of the way. And we also weren't utilizing that in the beginning, which was making things a lot harder. But once we started understanding how everything worked, it all started to make a little bit more sense, and started coming together pretty well. It's pretty fun.
All right, nice. Yeah, I honestly hadn't heard about this before you literally just brought it up, but yeah, it sounds like a really good time.
Yeah, I heard about it a while ago. I think some other podcast I was listening to, maybe somebody was talking about it. And I just saw it's on sale right now on the Switch for $8. So Nick and I wanted something to play. I suggested that, and we got it. And yeah, it's pretty fun. If you guys want to get it, pick it up. It's a 4-player game. We were only playing the two of us, but it was running really well. It wasn't framey or anything. Our internet connection was great. We didn't lose. We played for like 2 hours last night, and we didn't have a single hiccup. So that was really nice. It felt like we were just playing locally. Like it was that smooth.
That's cool. I want to back up a little bit. You listen to other podcasts besides ours?
Well, if you want to be the best, you gotta listen to the best.
I I guess that's true. But we're the best, Justin. That's what we pride ourselves on.
I suppose you're right. I will flog myself later.
Yeah, after the recording. But yeah, no, that sounds pretty cool. And yeah, for $8, I mean, that's a really, really reasonable price, especially when you say like the connection is as smooth as it is. So like you can play with friends. Yeah, it honestly sounds really fun.
Yeah, it's funny because I was telling Butch about the game earlier, and he mentioned that did the Nintendo online service start yet? And I had completely forgotten about that. But that is supposed to start, I think, at the end of this month. So it'll be interesting to see, if how that transition is going to go. Maybe if this was a sign of how good that service is going to be, it bodes well. I know it's a different game. It might be easier to run online than maybe something like Splatoon 2. But, it was a promising experience and it was really pretty flawless. So if that can be provided with this online service, it would definitely be worth the $20 for the year, which I still think is pretty cheap. But
oh yeah, I think the service is still pretty cheap either way. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how that affects online games like this one too. So we'll just have to wait and see.
All right, and aside from my indie arcade game, that is it for me. So Chris, what have you been playing?
So I pretty much dedicated this entire week to playing more of Okami, and so I've been playing the hell out of Okami, just running around the world, finding all the hidden secrets, and it's funny. Like I haven't played this game in years and years, Justin, and I never beat the game. I've never beaten the game, but as I'm playing through this gorgeous, gorgeous looking game, all these memories just keep flooding back. Like, I get to certain areas, and it's like, oh, you need to do this. And I just immediately like, oh, I remember having to do this. What a pain in the ass that was. And then, like, you have to do this part, and it's like, oh, I remember that. That was such a great part. And then you play through it again, and you're like, yeah, that was just as awesome as I remember. And it just has so many memories flooding back as you're playing through the experience. Like, when you're riding the log that's going out of control down the river towards the waterfall, and you have to draw the vines from the flowers on the side of the river, and you have to hook them onto the log.
Right.
And you have to do that in time before you go careening off the side of the waterfall. And yeah, that happened to me way too many times to count. It was kind of hilarious every time because, I mean, you go flying like a missile off this thing, and you can just imagine as you just sail into oblivion. And it's hard too, because you have to kind of eyeball where the flowers are. Then you have to real quick bring up your drawing screen to make it, to bring up your celestial brush, and then you have to draw the line from the flower to the hook. And I don't know why, but half the time I draw the line and I get the little indicators yeah, you connected it, and then when I let go and I let the screen go back to normal, the line doesn't connect. It's like, oh, you screwed up the line somehow. I'm like, how? It gave me no indication.
Yeah, I remember that happening actually a bit when I was playing it on the Wii, and I think that was even more so a problem on the Wii, where the motion controls, it was a cool idea, but it didn't work as accurately as a lot of people wanted it to, and it caused a lot of problems in that, where I'm making the correct motion, it's not registering properly, and I have to keep doing this puzzle thing over again because it's just, it should be working and it's not. And I know that frustrated a lot of people. It definitely frustrated me at times too when I was playing through.
Yeah, it was seriously frustrating. And man, let me tell you, playing the game playing the game with the buttons and just kind of like eyeballing like, okay, instead of using motion controls to draw things and instead holding down a button to draw the lines and then using the control stick to move things around, it is a lot more accurate and responsive than the motion controls ever were. Like, my combat, I remember in the first game, when I played the Wii release, the combat was really kind of stop and go because you would hit the enemies with your weapons to gray them out, and then you could draw the celestial brush across them to hurt them. And every time I would try to use that move or I would try to draw a bomb to blow them up, it never came out right. And a lot of my battles, even against some minor enemies, took longer than they should have because the motion controls just were not working the way that they were supposed to. But now, playing it on the Switch, I'm breezing through these battles like butter, man. It's really, really refreshing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, like you're trying to, paint the bomb, and you only have a limited amount of time before the stunned enemy comes back, and you're doing it correctly, but it's still not registering, and then the enemy comes back, and you have to knock him out again, and that was just so frustrating. But in Okami Den on the DS, using the stylus and touchpad, I remember how well that worked, and how I rarely ever came across that issue. I've actually never played the game using the control stick to move around and draw with, but from what you say and from what I've heard other people say, that it actually works pretty well and pretty accurately, and that can reduce a lot of headache in the game.
Yeah, it's really, really responsive, and it just is so much better. Like, I remember, you're right, like when the Wii first came out, motion controls, this should be fun, and in practice, like, it just wasn't that great. Like, some games it worked pretty well with, but it worked best with games where the motion controls were kind of like a side thing, like it wasn't the main focus of the experience. Like Skyward Sword, as an example, to me, suffered significantly by relying so much on the motion controls of the Wii. But that's neither here nor there. Right now I'm talking about Okami. And Okami for the Switch is great. I don't even know like how long the game is. I don't want to say I'm halfway through. I got past the part where you beat the first big boss, right? Without spoiling anything, I got past the first big boss.
Okay.
So now I'm in the main capital area that's by the coast. And there's like this giant poisonous fog that has taken over the city, and everyone is slowly suffocating. And it's up to me to relieve the fog and save everybody, yada yada. And it really is still like a really, really good time. I was actually playing it. Elena was over the other day, and when I beat the boss, and I remember commenting like how after you beat that boss, it just feels like an ending to the game. Like, the game really could have ended right there, and they could have released, like, here's Okami 2, and then here's Okami 3. They could have made a franchise out of it, but they decided to put everything together into this one game. And I kind of, I understand wanting to pack everything together, but a part of me almost wishes, I could have just beaten the game at that point by beating the main boss, because this boss was hyped up through the whole beginning of the game, and then you defeat him, and then it's like, you've got even more game to go through from there. And you want to say it feels like a stretch, but there's so much content afterwards that it's not a stretch. Like, it's just a full experience there still. So I love the game. I think it's great. I just kind of wish that it was broken up a little bit more,
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. There's definitely some pacing, I guess, issues you could call it, where there are a lot of fights, that one in particular, and trust me, there's a few more coming, where it almost feels like a false ending. Like, there's this big epic fight, this big dramatic resolution, and like maybe like a fade to white or whatever, and you think you're done, and then there's this, hey, go over here now. There's this other problem happening, and that's going to stem to another problem, and then you just keep going, and that feeling of like thinking you're done, but then realizing, oh wait, I still have a lot to do. A lot of Japanese style games do that. I know Xenoblade in particular had like a million different points of thinking you're finished and it just keeps going. And some people love that. Some people love a really lengthy experience. I think it's great. The quality of the game does not dip at all or anything after these big sessions, but story-wise, thinking that you've solved this resolution and then realizing, oh wait, there's still a lot more I have to do, can be deflating in some ways. So yeah, I can see that, especially in Okami, where there are certain big boss fights that you actually have to encounter a few different times, and unfortunately, some of them are the literally same exact fight that you fought earlier. You just have to do it again at a later point in the game, and that's always like kind of a chore.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm still playing the heck out of Okami, having an absolute blast with the game. Again, only $20. It's on Switch now. It's on PS4, Xbox One. If you haven't played this game before, get it. It's an absolute gem.
Yeah, I cannot second that enough.
And just to note something last week from when Zool was on the show, he had mentioned before how I haven't picked up Chasm yet, and I wanted to address this issue. I haven't picked up Chasm because, like, part of me, like, I want to play the game. I absolutely still want to play the game, but I kind of want to pick the game up for Switch. And I don't, now that I think about it, I don't know what my obsession is with why do I have to play this game on the Switch? But part of me just wants to say, like, oh, when it comes out on the Switch, then it will be perfect. Then it will be ready for me to pick up and play. Because it hasn't been announced for a Switch release. Chasm hasn't. Chasm has not been announced for a Switch release, but I know as soon as I hit confirm purchase on Steam or PS4 or wherever else the game is, as soon as I do that, it will trigger the press release where they say, oh, Chasm is now coming to Switch.
I think I heard the other day that it was confirmed for Switch.
Is it? Let me take a look.
Let's do a PAR double check.
PAR double check. Let's see. Oh yeah, look at that. 6 days ago. Yeah, Chasm is apparently coming to the Nintendo Switch. Well, would you look at that?
Well, I don't think there's a date or anything yet, though, right?
No, it doesn't look like it. It just is like, hey, yeah, they did a Pokemon announcement. Hey, it's coming, and that was the end.
Yeah, I know you're feeling though, because I'm having the same issue with Moonlighter, the game that Zool, member of the team, has played and loved, and I know I was talking to my brother about it too. We really want to play this game, but we're waiting for it to come to Switch. It's confirmed that it is coming to Switch, but there's just no timetable. And at a point, you're just kind of like, well, if I'm ready to play a game, like if I have the availability, the opening, whatever, and I really want to play this game, is it really that important to wait to play it on a different console,
Right. So, it's weird. Like, and it seems like it's not just me, it's not just you. A lot of people have this feeling of, oh, this indie game, it just got released. Once it comes out on the Switch, though, then I'll pick it up and play it. And I don't know, it's just like, I keep getting this feeling of kind of almost buyer's remorse, where I have these amazing indie games for Steam. I have Into the Breach, I have A Hat in Time, and Hollow Knight, and all of these games are either out or they are confirmed to be coming soon to the Nintendo Switch, and my immediate thought is, I should have waited to play it on the Switch. Especially because once these games are played on the Switch, they sort of get a renewed life. Like, now people, after Hollow Knight got released on the Switch, everyone was like, oh wow, Hollow Knight is great, this is a fantastic game. And I'm like pulling my hair out because I was singing this game's praises last year when it came out on Steam.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, when games do come out on Switch now with the popularity of the system and everything, and maybe it's coupled with the fact that AAA releases are very few and far between this year for the Switch. But yeah, whenever an indie game comes out that's been out for a while on the Switch, it does get this renewed existence, and people are just going nuts over it. Plus, of course, there is the portability aspect of the Switch. People can get these games, they can take it with them, they can play them wherever. But for me personally, I realize that I sometimes travel with my Switch, but most of the time whenever I play a game, I'm already at my house in my room anyway. So does it really need for me to be on the Switch to get it? But yeah, I don't know. It is nice to even have that ability if we want it.
Right. Yeah, you take your Switch to your rooftop block parties and on airplanes, and
Of course.
when you're at the gym after playing a game of a pickup game of hoops, then you relax and
sitting on a park bench.
Yeah, the realistic ways to play the Switch.
Walking my dog. That one was the weirdest one.
The dog is playing its Switch.
But the guy, he's playing Zelda. The dog is like, hey, it's time for a walk. So the guy brings his Switch with him and, goes to a park bench and sits down. And I guess he just ties the dog up to the park bench and just continues to play the Switch. Dude, just take a 10-minute walk this way, a 10-minute walk back, and just continue playing. You didn't need to bring the Switch with you just to sit outside where your dog can continue to not move around.
Yeah, your dog is not getting any exercise. You've completely negated the point of walkies. And furthermore, all right, eventually the dog is going to go, and dog owners out there understand you're going to have to pick it up. How are you going to pick it up when both your hands are now occupied with the Switch? Are you going to scoop it up in the baggie, loop it around your wrist at that point, and then keep playing? I don't know. That's kind of weird.
Smush it into the ground.
Just use his heel and just kind of dig it in. No one will know. Oh, man. All right, so yeah, that's all I've been playing. That's why I haven't picked up Chasm yet.
Understandable. It's a great game to get lost in.
Yes, so that is really going to do it for me this week. But Justin, it is not going to do it for you, because we still have to get to the Indie Arcade.
Indie Arcade.
If you fine folks out there remember, last week I assigned Justin the game Garfield Kart to play. Justin, how was it?
So, before I start talking about Garfield Kart, I want to briefly talk about this funny story that happened before I started playing the game. I sat down on my computer, was getting it on Steam, bought it, installed it. Then I noticed in the bottom right corner of my monitor, my NVIDIA GeForce graphics card had a little exclamation point next to it, notifying that it was time for a driver update. Right. So I open up, my NVIDIA backend, and I had to log in. Apparently, I had made an account. I don't even remember doing it, but I logged in. I found a new driver. Updating it. It's downloading, and then it's uninstalling the previous one and installing the new one. And I'm sitting there watching this download bar. It's taking a little while, and I'm just thinking to myself, I am updating my graphics driver so I can play Garfield Kart.
Hey man, you gotta see Garfield in full HD resolution. You gotta see all the little hairs on the back of his head and his ears.
It was so funny to me that if the NVIDIA crew knew all the work they put into this new driver was being used to update so I could play Garfield Kart, a game that could probably run on the built-in graphics card of a regular computer. Man.
Yeah, you get the full experience by seeing Odie's slobber. It has the sheen to it. It looks super realistic. Yeah, man, gotta get those realistic graphics for Garfield Kart.
But anyway, I just wanted to mention that funny story.
No,
Okay,
that's good.
so Garfield Kart. Last week we were pretty safe to assume that the game actually didn't look half bad. I know there was it had very positive reviews. Most of them were inflated by people just kind of goofing off, but
Some of them were a little deranged, but it's all good.
But just looking at the screenshots and videos, you and I both thought this game actually looks not half bad, and that is exactly true. It was, for $5, a very well made, with really good production values, kart racer. Of course, it absolutely rips the ever-loving crap out of Mario Kart. But if you think about it, Mario Kart created the kart racing genre. And whenever I play a new Mario Kart or even any kind of kart game, I always think about how this was just created. It's just some weird idea of, hey, let's take Mario and his friends, put them in karts, and just make a game out of it. And it spawned like an entire genre almost.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, you look at pretty much every kart racer that's come out. It owes a legacy to the original Super Mario Kart and the Mario Kart series as a whole.
Yeah, it's really interesting. But so it's got, how is it similar? Well, it's the game starts here off with a brief tutorial showing you how to do the power glide, that you do in Mario Kart. Instead of question mark blocks, there are these little candy wrappers on the course that if you get one, you get a power. A lot of the powers are the same. Like there's pies and like remote pies, which are basically green shells and red shells. There's a weird bottle of perfume that makes this pink like heart aura go around you. I guess is like getting a star in Mario Kart because it makes you faster and you can knock people off the course. There's lasagna, which gives you a speed boost. I don't know how or why that works.
Man, how does that work? Man, I eat a whole lasagna. I am down. I want to lie down. I want to take a nap. That is a heavy meal. How does that speed you up?
I do not have an answer for that, but it works apparently. And apparently everybody in the game loves lasagna, not just Garfield, because whoever you're playing as gets a speed boost from lasagna.
Man, can you imagine that? That would be interesting if like different power-ups did different things to different characters. Like, oh, you're Garfield, you want the lasagna. Oh, but if you're Odie, you don't want the lasagna because it'll give you like horrific diarrhea or something. I don't know. I'm not a game designer.
That would be interesting, but that is not something that was explored in this game.
What a shame.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of more. So, like, going through the items, like lasagna, pie, the perfume, I guess, is an Arlene-related thing. There's a pillow that makes everybody go to sleep, which is kind of, I guess, like the lightning bolt. There's a spring, which kind of launches you in the air, which I guess is kind of like a banana peel. So I'm like, all right, I can kind of see how all these items are sort of just kind of simple, and like the food stuff and the sleeping stuff is related to Garfield. Then there's one item that is a glowing green crystal with the soul of a demon inside of it. And I was like,
I'm sorry, what?
Yes, I'm not even kidding. I was like, what? How is this related to the Garfield universe in any way? And what does this do? And so it turns out it's a bomb that you throw it in front of you or behind you, like the bomb in Mario Kart, and it'll randomly kind of explode and like knock people off the course. And I'm just thinking, like, where did this come from? How did, like, it's not even close to any of the other items like in the same realm. It's just like this really strange looking, like a glowing green diamond, like with this ghost face in it that has like this evil eyes and stuff. And I'm like, what the hell?
Oh my god. But in fairness, though, it's been a while since either of us have read the Garfield comics.
You're right. Maybe this demon of the underworld is a main character, though.
Just imagine Jim Davis in his tower, of bones, thinking, how can I expand the Garfield universe? I know, crystallized demons. It just doesn't fit.
And I was thinking that because, you and I, if you don't know this, Chris and I have we're very big fans of comics and comic strips in particular. In fact, like pretty much the founder of our relationship was talking about, Peanuts and Calvin and Hobbes and Garfield and stuff. We've always been big fans of, funny papers and stuff. And, Garfield nowadays is not...
Garfield nowadays is not as good as Garfield from when we first met, which when we first met, Garfield was terrible.
Yeah. But Garfield from like the 70s, 80s, 90s was really good. And
yes.
We had the collections, we read them all. So you could say we were pretty much Garfield aficionados of, I guess, classic Garfield. But I'm playing this game and I'm like, I recognize some of the characters and stuff, but a lot of this just doesn't really feel like Garfield. It's kind of weird. It's very cartoony and silly. And then I remembered, wasn't there a 3D animated Garfield cartoon show on like Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network recently?
There was. It was out like a few years ago. I remember like you flipped through. I didn't watch it. It's up to you folks out there to believe me one way or the other, but I swear I never watched the show. I just flipped through it and you would see, oh, there's a 3D Garfield cartoon. Okay. So I'm aware. I was aware of it. I saw it, but it was out there, and the look of the kart racer definitely reminds you of the look of that show when that came out. Which now, so I guess what you're saying is like, did it just like have no personality to it, or how?
It did, but I'm guessing that the kart racer was based more on that show than on the actual comic strip or anything. Because maybe there was like that cat character Harry. Maybe he's in that cartoon because we didn't know him from the comic strip. And maybe some of the items like pies and stuff are used more in the cartoon. We all know Garfield loves lasagna, and of course it's represented pretty well in the game. But pizza is way more represented. Like the actual like button to like skip to the next menu is a slice of pizza, and like there's a pizza cup is one of the cups. And I don't remember in the comic strip Garfield eating pizza that often, but maybe that was a big thing in the cartoon too. I don't know.
Garfield, if he were real, would be deathly diabetic. And John would be like under arrest for like so many charges of animal abuse for feeding his cat lasagna and pizza. Like, those are not things any cat should be eating at all.
Yeah. I think I saw on Twitter somebody posted, John is a single guy who lives alone. Why did he make so many damn lasagnas?
I think I saw that tweet too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an excellent point. Excellent point.
Yeah, but back to the game. So it obviously wears its influences on its sleeve with Mario Kart. Even like the little things, like if you're ahead of somebody and you throw a pie behind you and it hits them, like on the left, the icons of each racer will spin around like to show you that you actually hit somebody, and also the player you're racing as, like Garfield, will go like ha ha, like to notify that you actually connected with that hit, like stuff that was from the Mario Kart games. But yeah, the actual game, like the presentation's really great. The music's really good. It's got like a horn section and stuff. Like the levels are pretty fun and bouncy. The level design, like the areas aren't really that interesting. It's like, a town, a farm, like another town, a town at night, a town during the day. But the design of the level, like they're filled with shortcuts like you would expect in a Mario Kart. Faster ways kind of to get around. There's a lot of speed boosts that you jump off up in the air. There are these. What's different is that there are these 3 puzzle pieces that you can collect at each level. So it's kind of like you have to find them and still win the race. I'm not sure exactly what they do when you find all three of them, and some of them are kind of hard to get. But it was a new addition, I guess, to the idea of the kart racer. And it's got the drifting in it. It's got a pretty good amount of stuff to unlock. Unfortunately, starting the game, you can only pick from John or Garfield, and you can only pick from 2 different cars. But in your player selection, you pick a character, you pick a car, you can pick a spoiler on the back of the car, which has different effects, like maybe it makes you turn a little bit faster. You pick like an engine, which can increase your speed a little bit or increase your acceleration a little bit. You can give your character a goofy hat that has effects, like I was playing as John one race, and I gave him a chef's hat, and the chef's hat makes it so when you throw a pie, it goes faster or something. So there's a little like addition there. So that was something pretty cool. And you can pick a boost, like you can buy different kinds of boosts that you can use at the start of a race to kind of launch you out in front to give yourself a head start. There's coins on the racetracks that you collect that basically, you store up, and then you can buy more things like more cars, more boosts, more stuff for later down the line. Although they're really expensive. Like, I did 2 Grand Prix races, and I finished with, I think, 600 coins maybe. And the next car update was 2,500 coins. And, like, it took a long time to get there.
Thank God.
Yeah, but stuff started unlocking pretty quickly. When I finished the first Grand Prix, I unlocked Liz. And then the next one, I unlocked Odie, another cup, and I think like a new boost item or something. So, I guess the more you play, the quicker you'll build up stuff to use. It controlled really well, surprisingly. I was using an Xbox controller. The only thing that was weird was navigating the menus. You can't use the controller. You have to use the mouse. So you're kind of going back and forth from the mouse to the controller to mouse to controller, which I thought was a little strange.
That's really weird.
Yeah, but driving in the kart felt great with the controller. It was responsive. I was making some pretty tight turns that I was making when I played like a Mario Kart game, fitting through some tight spots. There's this one item that is like, I guess it's like the game's blue shell, and how it works is it shoots these 3 UFOs out in front of all the racers, like down the line, and whoever's in first is going to be the first one to interact with them. And it's 3 UFOs that have like this kind of beam underneath them, and they're blocking the entire road. There's no way to get around them. And I think how it works is one of the UFOs you can go under, but 2 of them, if you run into it, they kind of lift you up into the air, and it takes like forever for you to get back down. So of course everyone's going to pass you.
Oh boy.
And yeah, I actually thought it was kind of cool because it gives you a chance to avoid it. Like a few times I've picked going under the right one, and it didn't slow me down. I got by it. But when you pick the wrong one, man, it really punishes you. So it was kind of a clever idea of the blue shell, where in Mario Kart there are some ways to avoid a blue shell, but it's very difficult. This one, you got like a 33% chance to avoid it.
Okay, well, I mean, as long as they have the option for you to actually avoid it and survive this move, that's good at least. I gotta be honest, I'm pretty impressed with the variety in the items and the depth of the customization features. Like, it sounds like, this game was a lot better than we had initially given it credit for.
It's really not bad. I can't say too much bad about it. I mean, it's not Mario Kart. But for $5, like if there was a Mario Kart that was $5, it would probably be this. Like if you really want to play a kart racer, but you don't want to spend $60 on Mario Kart 8, spend $5 on Garfield Kart, and you'll be pretty satisfied with it.
All right, awesome.
Yeah, there you go. I gotta say, everyone's voices is definitely weird though. like hearing Garfield just be like ha 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 when he hits something, and they all only have like maybe one or two different grunts that they make, so you kind of hear the same thing over and over again. And when I was playing as John, when he runs into a wall, he goes, "Ugh!" Like it sounds like somebody just clubbed him in the back of the head. And even if it's like a really small bump against the wall, he would make that noise, and I was cracking up every time.
Ugh!
It was like such a painful noise, like he really got hurt.
Like he knocked the wind out of himself. Oh man, poor John.
Yeah.
All right.
Moving on, staying with a cat theme.
Oh
Chris,
boy.
it is my turn to give you a game. I hopped on Steam. I wanted something new, something no one really knows too much about.
Mm-hmm.
I found a game that came out today.
Today, as we are recording this.
Today, as we are recording this game was released.
Oh my god. Today, by the way, is Labor Day for everyone out there listening. So
September 3rd.
Yeah, happy Labor Day, everybody.
Yeah.
Guess we're about to see how happy a Labor Day I'm about to have.
We're staying with a cat theme. This game is on Steam for $1.99, very value price.
Oh boy.
And that game is called Cat Catch.
Remember when I talked last week about how, sometimes you might get a good game or a bad game, you can't tell from the title, but you would be able to tell from Garfield Kart? We're back to that. We're back to Cat Catch. What is that? What could that possibly be? And what's it called? Cat
Catch. In the Arkanoid game Cat Catch, you have to find out all the cats in the room. Use your high-tech ball to clear obstacles, just like toys, chairs, a cup of coffee, or anything's in the room. Pay attention to the following items. It can be helpful or useless. Features: casual style and just relax, 25 diversified levels, various items, multiply the balls, expand paddle, etc. You can almost clear anything's in the room, and cat.
What? And cat? What does it even mean? What does that mean, Justin?
I don't know. I didn't write this thing.
All right, so
so basically, I was watching a video. It kind of looks like a mix of the game Breakout. You know how you
with the bricks.
Yeah, the bricks and the ball.
Yeah, it 100% reminds me of that.
Yeah, Breakout, but I guess I'm not sure if you have to hit the cats with the ball to collect them, or you're just supposed to free all the cats. But basically, your room is filled with these objects, and I guess you hit the ball into the object to remove the object and open up room for the cats, I guess. I don't know.
Honestly, I'm watching the trailer for it right now, and you hit the ball with the little paddle that goes at the bottom of the screen, and you move it back and forth, and you hit the ball up, and you're hitting these objects, and there's a cat that's wandering around the room, and quite frankly, I'm not entirely sure what the cat is for at first glance. Like, you're just hitting these things and bumping into them with the balls, and the cats are there, and that's it. Oh wait, okay. I saw from the trailer one of the balls hit a cat, and the cat started dancing. Like, on its back legs, it started dancing. So that's all the incentive I need to hit the cat.
Look, I know you're a cat fan. I know Elena is a cat fan. So maybe you guys can enjoy this one together.
Perhaps. I do like cats. I just want it on the record. I am more of a dog person, though. I do like cats. I just prefer dogs.
I'm the same way.
Yep. So, all right, cool, great. Cat Catch. This this should be fun.
Cat.
Like, you can almost clear any things in the room. Cat. That's literally a bullet point. All right. I am going to be one of the first people in the world to buy Cat Catch. Great.
Yes, you are.
What an honor. Yeah, and that's it. Cool, great. Can't be any worse than Tale of Paw Me. So, thank you, Justin. I can't wait to give this one a good go.
You can only go up from here.
It can only get better. All right, what do you say? We take a real quick break, and when we come back, we will discuss digital games versus physical games.
Meow. Welcome back to Press A Repeatedly. Justin Tomasello here with Christopher Gold, and we are going to talk about physical games versus digital games. Which do you prefer? What are pros and cons of each? Will physical ever go away? And if it is going to go away, is it going to happen soon? Alright, Chris, let me ask you this to start with.
Okay.
On Switch currently, do you have more games digitally downloaded or physically purchased?
Oh, I gotta say, easily digitally downloaded. Right now, I think I only have 2 games that are physical purchases. They were Breath of the Wild and Splatoon 2. The rest of the games that I have on there, even Super Mario Odyssey, are digital purchases.
So I'm the same way. I have Splatoon 2, Breath of the Wild, and I got Mario Odyssey physically. The problem with that question, it was kind of a loaded question because a lot of indie games that we play do not even have physical editions. They're digital only. Although, even that being said, a lot of indie games that have come out a while ago and they were digital only are actually starting to get published, these physical editions, and a lot of Switch owners I know are very happy to get them and pick them up and add them to their library.
Right, because it's a big deal when an indie game gets a physical release. I know I follow a bunch of indie developers on the PAR Twitter, the Twitter channel, Twitter page. What do you call that? Either way,
yeah.
I follow a bunch of the indie devs, and every time one of their games is being released for a physical release, it's a huge cause for celebration. They're like, hey, we're getting a physical release, and it's coming out in like a month, and it gets like thousands of likes. People are like, oh my god, that's amazing, congratulations. It's a big deal to get a physical release for these indie games. And I can understand that because, especially when you look at, when you go into a store that has the physical releases displayed on the shelf, it's nice to be able to have those games front and center there for people to look at and pick up and say, oh, this looks interesting, I might want to grab that. So it's great for getting eyes on your game outside of the digital environment.
Yeah, and from a business perspective, right? I think this is why a lot of indie games are coming out on physical copies, is that, the game comes out. It's very rarely, I actually don't even know if this does happen at all, but I don't think you'll ever really see an indie game release and have a physical copy on the same day, right? It's normally the indie game comes out, it's digital only, and the developer will say, hey, we're working with this publisher to get the game to come out as a physical copy also. And what a lot of people do is they'll double dip. They'll already have the game on digital. They love it so much, they just kind of wish they had, a case with some artwork. Maybe it comes with some sort of little bonus thing. Like, I know a lot of the indie games on Switch, they come with like a keychain or something extra in the box, and just the actual cartridge. And then people will they'll double dip, they'll buy the game again, and they'll have both copies. And then for the publisher, it's like, hey, we are renewing interest in our game, right? Because we're reminding people, oh yeah, this game exists, and either A, people that have got it already want a physical edition will go out and get it again, or B, people that might have missed that it was released digitally or were just purposely waiting for a physical edition now have the opportunity to do so.
Right. And it's also really, really useful to have the physical release as opposed to a digital release for a lot of people out there who, let's face it, not everybody has a dedicated online connection, or they can't connect up to the internet so easily. Like, that's something that you and I feel like a lot of people out there kind of take for granted, is that, we just download it from the internet or we'll buy it online. But there's a large amount of people out there who don't have that a capable internet access, unfortunately. So a lot of times physical releases are the only way that they'll be able to actually play the game. You just pop in the cartridge and then you play it and you're good to go. So for a lot of these indie devs to have a physical release for their game in addition to the digital, it can allow them to reach a market that otherwise would have been unable to play their game in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that's probably the main reason why physical editions are even still around, is that a lot of people either have a very poor internet connection, or in some cases not even one at all. And to alienate those players, albeit a small amount of players, but to alienate anybody from a game is not something any developer would ever want to do. So, I know when the Xbox One was first being shown off, and they were toying with the idea of, it being always online and digital only. I know a lot of people took issue with that. I know a couple versions of the PSP or the Vita were built to be, only digital downloads only, and they didn't, see much success. So obviously, I don't think we're quite ready for a digital only marketplace.
I agree. There's just too many factors involved to restrict. You can apply this question not just to video games, but to all forms of entertainment media. But, obviously we'll just focus on video games. There's also issues, for instance, of like ownership. People want to be able to say, like, okay, I gave this store money and I picked up this physical item. This is mine now. This is my copy of this game. There are many like it, but this one is mine. And, it's yours. Whereas with something like, say, Steam, or you buy something online, it's not necessarily 100% yours. I know a lot of times you're buying pretty much a license or the rights to play the game, but you're not actually playing the game itself. Like, unless you manage to download the copy directly to your computer, so before playing it, then if Steam or if another service decides, hey, we don't want to support this game anymore, and they'll just stop supporting the game, and next thing you know, this thing that you shelled over good money for is suddenly unplayable. That's an issue. A lot of people are like, I paid money for this and I can't play the thing that I bought. That's garbage, and it is. You should be able to play what you paid for. And so a lot of people prefer physical media for just that reason. Like, you can do whatever you want in the online sphere, but this game is always going to be mine. You can't just like send the Nintendo goons to my house, break in the door, and just start confiscating my games. You can't do that. This isn't the 80s anymore, Nintendo.
Right. It's also interesting when you think of it, again, as a business perspective. It costs extra money to make physical editions of things, to print cartridges or CDs, to print, the cases and everything. And when a company realizes, hey, we don't have to do that anymore, we can save a lot of money by not doing that and while only releasing digitally, it makes a lot of sense from a business perspective. But for people who like to collect things, people that like to have game cases lined up on the shelf, that like to look at the artwork, or just like you said, just physically own something, then in that case they're starting to get shafted a little bit. So what we have now is a problem where developers or publishers mostly are trying to meet in the middle, where yes, the game's available for download. It's very convenient to download. There's even options now where you can pre-purchase and pre-download a game. Like, let's say Game X comes out on Friday. It's a big game. It's like 60 gigabytes. You can start downloading Game X Wednesday, 2 days before it's available. So when you sit down on Friday to play it, you don't have to actually wait and download it. Like, it's there, it's ready to go. It's almost as if you went to a store, bought the game on your way home, and was able to pop it in and start playing immediately. So
right.
That's a nice, convenient aspect of it. But a problem that's happening is, publishers are trying to meet both ways. They're trying to appease both fans. So what they're doing is like, okay, it's digital, it's out there, you can get it very simply that way. Or hey, we've made some copies of physical editions for you guys to grab who really love the physical. The problem is, a lot of times those numbers are nowhere near the number that they need to be. Very recently, this is still happening with Octopath Traveler, where Square Enix is just not publishing enough. They are making these public apologies of, hey, we're so sorry that we didn't anticipate this, amount of interest in the game. And they keep, releasing new shipments, but it's still never enough. And the game, from what I understand, is still pretty hard to pick up physically. And, so we're having that sort of issue where the demand is actually, for physical, is still higher than a lot of publishers are making it out to be, and it's causing some issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, part of the issue is, like, I guess a lot of the publishers are just underestimating exactly how much demand there is for physical copies of these games and this media. Like, we getting back to the original question at hand, like, will physical media ever really go away? Will it go all digital? I don't see it happening for a very long time unless there's a significant change in how consumers and the market want to consume their media. A lot of people want to, they want to have the physical copies of the game so they can pop it in whenever. They can look at it, they can hold it in their hands, they can display it, they can put it up as part of a collection and show off their library, which can also be kind of like a form of bragging rights. Because, I mean, like, if you look on Instagram or on, when people post a picture of, like, oh, check out my video game collection, and it's always the shelves or cabinets that are just full of, like, hundreds and hundreds of games from all sorts of different generations or for a particular system, and everyone's like, wow, look at that, like, that's incredible. But nobody ever is like, hey, check out my collection, and it's like a screenshot of their digital collection of the games that they own online. People like to show off the actual goods that they have. So, yeah, I don't really see physical going away anytime soon. But I do really like the convenience aspect of having digital downloads. In fact, convenience was 100% the reason why I picked up Mario Odyssey digitally, because I had the money. I just didn't have the time or the ease of access to actually get to a store and pick up the game at some point. I wanted to have the game like right away, but I wasn't probably the weekend it came out. I was very busy, and I don't know if I would have been able to get to a store quickly to pick up the game, or even if there were physical versions of the game available, because the game was in very high demand when it first came out. So I was like, what to do? And finally I was like, yeah, I'll just download it digitally. So I bought it, downloaded it, and yeah, there it was, right on my Switch, and there it still is, ready to be played at any time. I don't have to worry about switching out cartridges. I don't have to worry about like losing the cartridge. Like, I know a lot of people, point my finger like in your direction, will take like games and they'll put them in the wrong cover, and they'll like, yeah. So then you're like, oh, let's play this game, and you open it up. You'll open up Time Splitters or something, and it's Beautiful Joe in there or something, and you're like, what the hell is this garbage? And screw it. We'll open up a bunch of different you open up the different covers, and there's different games in every single goddamn game. Like, none of the games match the cover.
Goose hunt.
Yeah, that drives me up a wall. You have no idea how much that is my pet peeve. I hate that. But no, I don't have to worry about any of that, because I just have the Mario Odyssey icon right on my Switch homepage. I want to play it, I just scroll right on over, click it, and boom, it loads right up. And it runs smooth. So there's no issues with that regard. So yeah, digital definitely has its advantages.
Right. And then to counter that, I would actually bring up a disadvantage of digital that I encountered last night, where I was trying to download 9 Parchments, and my Switch was completely maxed out on space, and I had to go and delete a couple games from my library. Not entirely, you delete the download of it. If I ever wanted to, I could go back and re-download the game for free. My save progress and stuff is archived, but the actual physical game is no longer on my system. And I don't have any extra storage yet, but that's an additional purchase that you would have to make to beef up your system if you are going digital only. What are your thoughts on that idea of just kind of making more space?
That is 100% a significant disadvantage. I always feel so bad when I have these games, or I have save data saved on my system, and I want to play a new game, and it's like, oh, you have to make space. So then I'm like, I'm having to do kind of like Sophie's Choice. I've got like the two beloved games, and they both take up a huge chunk of real estate, and I'm like, oh, what to do? Which game do I get rid of? Because I know, like, as soon as I get rid of it, I'm probably never going to re-download it. I just don't do that. Like, unless I really, really, really want to go back and finish a game, but I'll probably get rid of the game that I've finished at that point to make room, because at that point it's done. There's nothing really left to go back to. But still, I hate having to make that choice. That is an agonizing decision, because I'm always like, oh, I guess you're going away, and then I delete it and I watch it, the download bar go by, oh, the game is being uninstalled, and I just like look away and a tear rolls down my cheek. And then I play the new game and I have a blast.
It can be a tough decision, but it also, believe it or not, sometimes is an easy decision. Like for me last night, I was looking through my games, like, oh, okay, I have a couple demos of games that I'm like done with. I'm not going to go back to. Like, they can easily be removed. I had Snake Pass, a game that I like kind of liked, but I was like, was I really ever really going to play this again? I don't think so. It's taking up 5 gigs of space. I'll just remove it from now and be okay with it. And sometimes it helps you kind of clean up some stuff that really probably shouldn't be there in the first place.
Right. Plus, like, that sort of decluttering, like getting rid of old things, can actually be very therapeutic. So like it can actually make you feel better to get rid of that old clutter. Just from like a mental health aspect.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Just help organize things, and maybe even your system would run a little better without so much space being used. I think the last point I would probably make is that I love physical copies of things. I like having them on my shelf. I had a discussion with fellow PAR member Dave a little while ago. We were talking about books, and he has a Kindle, and he was like, "Look, man, you gotta get a Kindle. It's great. You can bring it anywhere. It's got so much space to store stuff on. It works really great in like these low light settings, and it has like this ink-based screen, so it's not like you're staring at a screen." And I'm like, "Look, I think Kindles are awesome, but personally, I don't need another device in my life that needs to be charged, that I need to, carry around with me everywhere, and I just don't need another electronic device when so many things are becoming electronic. I feel like books, there's so many good things about books that makes them they're so simple to bring with you. Just reading off a page, even if it is an ink-based kind of screen, I still prefer an actual page to read off of. I enjoy having a bookcase. Like you mentioned earlier, it's almost like a bragging rights of showing off stuff that I've read. No one's going to pull, like you said, their Kindle out and be like, here, scroll through all these books that I read, having the different colors and spines and organizing it in a certain way. I really like the smell of of a book.
Yes. That new book smell, there honestly really is nothing like it. Like, even going into a bookstore and just like that smell that's in the air of like the print and the ink that's in the air, that is a really, really nice smell.
Not even new. I mean, old books. I like the smell of old books too. Something about the history of them. I like to collect older editions of books. Like a lot of books that I've been reading, were first printed in like the 70s or something. So I'll go online and I'll try and find like one of the earliest prints that I can, even if it is kind of worn and like pages bent and stuff. Because I just kind of like having that. It's almost like I'm reading, some old history, some ancient tomb or something.
Right.
Tome.
Yes.
But so for that sense, I really enjoyed the physical edition of books. And then I was thinking of games the same way. I was thinking, I don't think I could ever go fully digital because I just love having the cartridges, the artwork on the case. Unfortunately, manuals aren't really a thing anymore. They were a huge portion of a new game that I loved. I have fond memories of like picking up a new game and then on the way home, when I was a kid, like my mom driving me home, me and my brother are like flipping through the manual of the new game and like learning how it works and everything. Unfortunately, that's not really a thing anymore with most physical editions. But that was definitely something that I miss and I wish was still around. But anyway, I'm kind of rambling here. But to wrap this all up, the idea was, how could I, someone who's so used to physical editions of games, ever give them up completely? And then I sat down on my computer and I realized that every game that I own on Steam is all digital. I don't have any physical computer games, I have a Steam library and all my games are there and I just load them from there. It isn't really that big of a deal. So, I don't know. Again, I'm still kind of in the middle of where I stand between my editions of games.
Right. Yeah, I don't think you can even buy physical releases of computer games anymore. Like, if you were to actually go to a store and buy the physical box for a strictly computer-based game, like a Civilization 6 or something like that, you'll open the box and you'll get a download key. So you just you're just pretty much buying a download key at that point. So it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But yeah, I'm with you. It's a difficult question, really, to answer. I don't necessarily think one form is better than the other, but I'm with you. I don't think I could ever go strictly digital, just because like there's too many advantages to having a physical copy of something in your hand, whether it's a book, a movie, a video game, that digital just cannot replicate.
Yeah. I mean, there's pros and cons for each. Suit yourself to whatever your lifestyle entails. I know a lot of people that don't want to have a lot of crap really appreciate digital stuff, and if they're moving, they don't have to worry about like tubs of games or books or whatever that they have to bring with them. So there's definitely benefits to each. So I guess whatever suits your lifestyle, and as long as we still get to play the games, I guess that's really all that matters, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I hope you all out there appreciated that preview earlier of our new book-focused spin-off, Read Books Repeatedly. Yeah, that should be coming soon, someday, when Justin and I make the appropriate sacrifices and have enough time to do 2 podcasts at the same time.
A book podcast will be pretty cool. I'm sure there are plenty of them, but
how
does it work
no doubt.
If you didn't read the book that they're talking about? Do you just not listen to that episode?
I would think so. I would think it's probably kind of like a book club, book club type of thing where they're like, we're reading this book and we're reading up to chapter 7 or so. So anyone out there wants to listen, read up to that chapter, and then we're going to have a completely spoiler-filled discussion up to that point. So if you're not up to that point, don't listen. I imagine that's probably how it goes.
That sounds awesome. I want to try and find that now and do that. Where every episode is a few chapters. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Reading a whole book every week, that's too much for me. But
yeah, that would be a lot.
Being able to do a few chapters and then listen to the pod where they kind of talk about those few chapters, there's got to be something like that.
There has to be. I would be shocked
Hit us up
if there wasn't.
on Twitter or email us if you know something like that we just don't know.
Right, and hit us up on our email or Twitter or however you want to get in touch with us if you have something that you'd like to add to the discussion on physical versus digital games. Is there a point that we missed or something that you agree with or disagree with? Let us know on Twitter or at our email at parpodcast@gmail.com.
Absolutely, and with that, we're going to call it a wrap. That's all for this week. Remember, Press A Repeatedly posts new episodes Tuesdays on iTunes, Google Play, Podbean, YouTube, and Spotify. If you like what you hear, please take a moment to rate and review the show, or tell your friends about us. It helps other people find the podcast and will really help us grow. And thank you to all who have rated, reviewed, and subscribed so far. We love you.
You can follow us on our Facebook page or on Twitter and Instagram. We are at Press A Repeatedly. I'm at cgold113, and Justin is at oaf7724. You can email us any questions or comments at parpodcast@gmail.com. That's parpodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to check us out on our new website at pressarepeatedly.com. That's all for this week. Chris and Justin signing off. And remember, to dig up buried treasure throughout the colorful world of Nippon, press A repeatedly.